Thank you for joining us for this inaugural episode of Tea Time with Peter, an auspicious spin-off of Father Tony's typical coffee talk. But, you know, they always say the spin-off is better than the original, so we'll see what happens. I went to seminary in Dubuque for about 3 years, and I still go back there every once in a while to visit different priests. And one of the restaurants that I've been to a couple of times has been Convivium, which is downtown, sort of not in the nicest part of town, but they market it as a urban farmstead. It's sort of a hip place to go, but they grow a lot of their own produce. They have a pretty simple meal. It's kind of cool, but that name, Convivium, kind of stands out in a bit. It's a little strange for a sort of hip restaurant. And that Latin word, convivium, is also a word that we use to describe the Eucharist in the history of the Church. So how did a Latin word that was common for the Eucharist in the Church come to also be the name of a hip urban restaurant in Dubuque, Iowa? Well, I think it has to do with the etymology of the word. So convivium comes from putting together the preposition con, which means with or together, and vivium, which comes from the Latin word for to live. So convivium means something like living together, which makes sense for a restaurant, for someplace that's serving food, because at the meal, at a good family meal, the whole family is coming together and living together. When you invite people over to your house, everyone's coming together to live together in a certain sense. And that's why the Church took up that Latin word, convivium, and used it for the Eucharist. Because it's in the Eucharist that Jesus comes and wants to live with us. That relationship that we have with God is healed. That relationship that we have with others is healed through the Eucharist. And we're actually able to live with each other, to live with God, because that's who Jesus came to be. We hear at the very beginning of the Gospels that he's Emmanuel, God with us. And the Eucharist is how he comes and does that, so he can live with us. So I think we're really being challenged in this Lent to really think about the Eucharist whenever we come and receive it, whenever we go to Mass or watch it online if we're homebound, and make a spiritual communion, to use that opportunity as a reminder that Jesus is coming and living in us. And our lives need to look different for that, but we also can just thank God for that great gift that he gives us. This breviary that I got from someone who's now deceased. I think it was found in his attic, and somehow I got a hold of it. But there are all sorts of different little prayer cards and different prayers that he liked to say, and I've kept them all in here. And one of them is an old Latin prose, O Sacrum Convivium, which, to finish off, I'll just read for us here. There's a lot of really great musical settings of it as well, by Kevin Allen, who's a contemporary composer in the Chicago area, or Olivier Messiaen. So I'll just read this for us to finish off. O sacred banquet in which Christ is received, the memory of his passion is renewed, the mind is filled with grace, and a pledge of future glory given to us. Thank you for joining us for this tea time. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. I also want to use this as an opportunity to shamelessly self-promote. Next Tuesday, which would be February 27th, there will be a Eucharistic Holy Hour for vocations over here at Blessed Sacrament. It'll be an opportunity to pray for vocations. I'll give a little spiel about it. And I think the vocation director, maybe the Archbishop, will be there. It'll also be live streamed if you're at home or just need an opportunity to pray with our Lord from your own home. So have a blessed Lent. Always remember that Jesus came to live with us, and he lives with us in the Eucharist.